welcome to another episode of Puck and Roll. Patrick Lortie here, back in the big seat. Feels good, feels comfy. I got my groove back here. Joined tonight, Sebastian High and Joshua Rosa. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hey.
So we're recording this on a Wednesday evening. It's currently 3-0 Boston against Montreal. So, you know, it is what it is. Although Sebastian is quite excited about the fact that Brett Marchand scored 2 goals. And I think it was Josh that mentioned Jeff Gorton. It's one of Jeff Gorton's products, right? He was the one being drafted by Gorton. So,
and Gorton's like 6 months in Boston. He got them Marchand.
You know, amazing. So,
and Chara too, right? And Savard. Like,
I know it hurts. Stop it.
at least he's on our side now. At least we have Gorton now.
Exactly. So it's going to be a very interesting episode. I mean, we have definitely a lot to talk about, a lot of non-Habs related topics as well, but still worth mentioning. And the first one we're going to get on real quick, and this is just hilarious at this point, and also baffling. I know, once again, Sebastian is getting a little emotional and rolling his eyes because he's definitely going to.
It's we've been in this for like how long has it been?
Since
I feel like it just like every week it gets worse. Like every time when you think you know everything, you get a new detail where it's like, oh, he's even shittier than I thought. Cool.
And we were talking, of course, about the soap opera that is Evander Kane.
Man literally got on a plane a week after he tested positive for COVID. Like, come on, buddy. That's how you get your contract terminated. Like, how stupid can you be?
For those completely out of the loop, Evander Kane finally got his contract terminated by the San Jose Sharks via, of course, waivers. And then there was rumors right off the bat that the Edmonton Oilers have been immediately in touch with them, which is the last thing they need right now. But, you know, the Oilers being the Oilers. And then we find out that, like, Sebastian just guffawed barely on the plane a week later, and he gets caught flying while positive, which is, you know, is practically a felony, at least in this province. So, I mean...
If it's not, it should be.
If it's not, it should be. Yeah, guys, I just want to know your opinion real quick. I mean, especially... what the hell, man? Why are people giving Kane another chance? I mean, this is one of the most polarizing figures in the history of the game. I know he's talented, but for crying out loud, man. Like, I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole.
He is big and he scores goals. That is the entire thing. He's big, he can score goals, and he's good at hockey. Like, it's like, of course, he's getting another chance. And like, even literally today, did you guys watch the McDavid interview, or like the segment from the McDavid interview?
I actually
he was straight up asked, like, would you be okay with having Evander Kane on your team? And he's like, I will leave all like the controversy stuff to the media and like the public, and like, you know, we take the public opinion seriously, but in the end, we're here to win games. Basically saying the most important thing is what happens on the ice, completely like scratching the fact that Evander Kane... Okay, let's have a nice little rundown here of Evander Kane's things. Okay, so gets on a plane...
This is a rap sheet according to Officer High.
I mean, I'm going to miss things because there are so many. So gets on a plane a week after testing positive for COVID and possibly spreads COVID because genius. Fake COVID vaccination certificate.
Oh, yes.
Because again, genius. Domestic abuser. Can I not like what in the world is it with like NHL teams wanting to do this? Also, side note, as soon as Marc Bergevin was hired by the LA Kings, Scott Wheeler tweeted out, LA Kings now pursuing Slava Voinov, because of course Marc Bergevin would. And like the entire comment section is like, no. And like I replied, like, the scary part is I don't know if you're trolling or not. He was joking, but like the entire crazy part was no one knew if it was true or not, because domestic abusers just get all the chances in the world if they're good at hockey. So back to Evander Kane. On top of that, there was his gambling, his debt, just being a pretty bad person as a whole. Teammates hate him. Like, he was run out of San Jose because his teammates despised him. And like, there are a lot of pretty shitty people in hockey, like and like players too. you have to be really bad to get run out of a team. Like, how often does it happen that you get run out of a team? Like,
to be honest, though, I mean, if he was an NFL player, he'd be considered tame. So,
do you really want to set the bar at the NFL though?
I'm all good, Josh. I mean, you're general manager. Evander Kane gets bought out. I mean, even with his rap sheet, do you actually give the guy a chance, or you're like, no way, Jose? Like, what's your take on it?
Let's just say I wouldn't be surprised if Evander Kane took off his jersey and all his pads and skated off in the middle of the play or something. He's the NHL's answer to Antonio Brown at this point. Of course, if you don't know if football, Antonio Brown's been maybe worse than Kane. He's been something, and
both
in his last
bad.
they're both awful,
and they both have issues, man. It's just
definitely.
Hey, you guys
I'm not touching them.
No, we don't touch that.
If it weren't clear, I wouldn't touch him either.
On that note, hey, let's stay in the controversial topic and mention the fact that Logan Mailloux is finally playing hockey. Scored a couple of goals, too much to everyone's dismay. Josh, I want your opinion on it. I mean, are we finally moving on from this whole saga, or are we still angry at this?
Well, my problem is that I've been maybe not keeping the close eye on it as other people, but I haven't seen anything about what he's done to change anything from the start of the year. You would think that if he actually did something, that would be really a great media for the league and the player and everything, to say that he's reformed and everything, and that he's actually done something to help people that have suffered in this way. But there's been absolutely nothing. They just announced that he's come back, that they feel that he's remorseful about the action, and he might be, but would generally be a perfect time to show some actions, show what you can do to help people in these situations. But it's just nothing, which makes me think that nothing's changed from the start of the season. I wonder why come back, why now, what's changed, and it seems like nothing.
I'm guessing something changed. He must have had the education that we were promised that he was going to get. But I mean, are we?
Ooh, can I come in right there?
I'm going to let you interject all you want in a second, Sam. But like, do we really want to use him as the poster child for this? Like, we want to make him the example, make him have the sign around his neck being like, I'm a douchebag. Like, come on, like. At the end of the day, he's still a teenager,
Yes. At the same time, look, the way I see it is that playing professional or high level hockey, it's not a right? Like it's a privilege. It's something that can be taken away. Just like if someone would have done the things that Mailloux did at like a tenured position as a professor at a university, they would have been fired, right? Like, because again, you're not entitled to it, right? Like, actions have consequences, and like the thing that I think frustrates me the absolute most with how this situation is being handled by everyone, be it Mailloux himself, the OHL, the London Knights, the Montreal Canadiens, the NHL, everything, just hockey as a whole, is that there's no clear idea of yes, everyone stated like we need to reform him. He needs to learn from his actions, but there was never a clear plan to it, right? Like in the OHL statement that said what like Mailloux has done to come back is that he took multiple courses. So here, this is like verbatim the actual statement. Some of the certifications and programs available to athletes that Mailloux completed were respect in sport, mental health in sport, sport media, ethics in sport, diversity and inclusion, sports psychology, and cultural awareness.
And math.
Those are all important things to know. But also note, not a single one of those programs mentions women, consent, or privacy. That is an issue. Yeah, that is an issue because his entire thing was issues around respecting women,
yeah,
around respecting consent and privacy. And like, he has not shown, he's not gone through programs that address that. He has also, like, look, I'm assuming he has not yet fully apologized to his victim, because if he had, the OHL, the London Knights, the Montreal Canadiens would have all used that as reasoning to like justify him returning to play, right? That would be their big building block of, this is him having reformed. He sent like a really eloquent apology because it's the only thing his victim asked for. No, there's nothing else. There's nothing like, I don't think he deserves to play hockey, nothing that was vindictive. It was literally just, I want a genuine apology, and he has not given that to her yet. And that's my issue with it. I don't think he should be back playing right now. And it frustrates me a lot that so much of like Habs Twitter and just Habs fan in general are now like treating him as this hero. You're getting like my Evander accounts everywhere. And it's just really frustrating as a hockey fan.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree on that on that front though, because it's that he made it in that elite citizen status almost that every athlete or celebrity seems to get, you know. Of
Exactly.
course, there are exceptions to the rules, like when you're going to get a Kevin Spacey, for example, who no longer has a career, albeit him being a brilliant actor. But hey, like, he's paying for his crime, so to speak. But I mean, it's ridiculous how many players, like just in the sports world alone, how many players do you know who have done even worse things?
Oh, for sure, for sure.
If I were to do it,
like Evander Kane,
done it, like, we'd be in jail right now.
Exactly.
So.
Like Evander Kane. There are so many instances like Slava Voinov, Evander Kane, allegations against Patrick Kane that were massive, right? With all these different things just in hockey. And then if you go in the sports world overall, so many people would be imprisoned, let alone still be playing professionally. Yeah. And we hold them to these different standards when in reality, they're just people, right? And they're like, the things that they do badly are just as bad. And it's just it's frustrating to just see these people being treated so differently just because of their more elite status. And yeah,
I'm gonna piggyback on Slava Voinov and pass the puck to Josh. Our good old friend Bergy is now part of the LA Kings as in a consultant role, and a lot of people thought, it's like, oh well, maybe he's going to be taking over the general manager spot because Rob Blake's contract is about to run up. Error. Rob Blake just re-signed for I think 4 years. And now the more interesting part of this hiring is that Bergevin has been instructed that he will not be speaking to any media. I don't know what that's all about. I'm guessing, it might be part of the consultant, being the role of a consultant, so to speak. But I mean, is this just a springboard for him to eventually become general manager of another team? I mean, we know the Anaheim Ducks are looking for a GM. The Blackhawks are still looking for a GM, even though everyone's like, he's not going to go. I don't know. In my opinion, I still think Bergey's going to Chicago.
That would be a match made in heaven.
Oh,
or hell, sorry.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. But Josh, I want your opinion on this whole situation. Even though, Jeff Molson's probably happy because he's saving about $500,000 for the rest of the year. But your take, sir.
I think that the consultant label is pretty perfect for Bergevin, so that you can talk to him about making trades and everything he has to say about drafting and developing players, because that's where his strength lies. He's really good at making trades at the time, and as we've seen in Montreal, he's not so great at picking up talent through the draft and developing it very well. There's always going to be a market for Bergevin, because he's not, would be lying to say if he's not a terrible GM. He has his faults, but he also has some pretty good strengths with, say, the trades. He's been able to find some really good selling trades in the past, picking up Danault and Romanov, picks for Romanov. He's really good at doing that. Nick Suzuki, another one. So there's always going to be the market for it. I just don't know right now. It seems like this is a good kind of relaxing from the high strain of the Montreal media and the whole situation and culture around Montreal being so big and focused that he can just kind of ease himself in. And I think if he wants another general manager job, he's not going to have trouble finding it.
Yeah, I mean, like, regardless of any way you want to spin it. I mean, the Montreal culture or whatever has been, it's just it's tough. Like the media is just is really demanding. The fans are extremely demanding as well. I mean, you've seen, a lot of like players, or even player wives, like Angela Price has always been vocal about the people here and stuff like that. Jake Allen's agent actually came out just yesterday. Alain Roy, his name is. He might mention how like the Montreal environment is so toxic. Everyone is choking me. Like, you're instantly a celebrity, and you get the paparazzis all over you, like automatically and everything. So maybe you're right. Maybe it was his own request not to be exposed to that, or he is backed up by his good friend Luca Robitaille. So I mean that could be a thing as well. But you know what? I think we're going to expand a little bit on that non-Habs related news, so to speak. I do want to mention real quick. We learned this a little earlier about Eric Staal signing a PTO with the Iowa Wild, and he actually has no interest in playing for in the AHL. Sebastian, we're hearing that it's basically his own training camp because he wants to go to the Olympics.
Yeah, and honestly, it'd be a really nice storyline just to see Eric Staal kind of finish off his career with another Olympics after having participated, like, most prominently in the 2010 Olympics. And yeah, it's a nice storyline of like in terms of like end of like if his hockey career is in fact over after the Olympics, that's quite the end of a career, isn't it? Like his entire career has been pretty prestigious, but to end it off with this glorious underdog cup run and an Olympics, that's about as good as it gets, isn't it? Like, the only thing that would have made it any better would have been if Montreal had beaten Tampa Bay. But, like, again, he's already won a cup. So, like, he had that one massive run there right at the end. And his regular season with the Habs was pretty bad. But in the playoffs, he played well.
He was a leader. Yeah.
He was. And he'll be the exact same thing on the Olympic team of the leader. He will be a mentor because a lot of the team is probably going to be very young. Like Owen Power is going to be on that team. Mason McTavish is probably going to be on that team. It probably won't be as young as the American team. And the Americans, like Bobby Ryan, didn't make that team because they're going all out young. They're going with Brendan Brisson
as well, right?
I would assume Shane Wright is also in competition there for Canada, but like for the U.S., like also Habs prospect Sean Farrell is in the mix for the Olympic team, which would be super exciting, right? Like just as Habs fans to have Olympic representation. Also, I would assume Caden Gooley is in the mix for the Canadian Olympic team as well. I think his name has been floated around. So it'll definitely be fun to kind of get, like, it won't be a World Juniors because it's obviously not a junior competition, but to have like the Habs World Junior players in the actual Olympics, which is pretty fun. Cool. And like we never actually got to see Sean Farrell at the World Juniors. Because he just never made the team.
Yeah, getting him on that international stage is going to be massive for him.
But getting him at the Olympics, that's going to be so much fun because I'm a huge fan of Sean Farrell.
Thank you for saying Sean. I said Shane Wright, but I meant Sean Farrell. Thank you for jumping on that. One last topic, boys, before we move on. Tomorrow is being Thursday. The Minister of Finance of Quebec is actually having a meeting with both Gary Bettman and Bill Daley. The topic of conversation is going to be the return of the Nordiques. Now, this is something we've discussed last summer, and now there's some numbers that are being thrown around. Like, for example, there's $1 billion price tag apparently being put up in order to get a team back in Quebec. Josh, is this actually going to happen, or is this as much of a pipe dream as the Expos coming back to Montreal?
I think it's more likely than the Expos, but especially in the pandemic right now, justifying justifying $1 billion on a team during the pandemic when
isn't this the worst time
economy so low? It's you
the
couldn't pick a worse
what
time.
Can we say?
Yeah.
End of conversation. All right, let's move on, guys. All right, so we went a little bit around the NHL. Now we're going to focus a little bit more on the Habs. There's a couple of topics that need to be discussed. The first, we're going to talk about some new players that are both with the Rocket and with the Habs. And then we're going to talk about a little bit about the general manager search. Announced earlier today was the waiver claim of one Rem Pitlick from the Minnesota Wild. And also, I know Scott wanted to mention this, but unfortunately he's not available today for the show. Devante Smith-Pelly signed a PTO with the Laval Rocket. I mean, that's a pretty cool story on his own, given that he's only, 26 years old or something, and he still wants to carve his
29.
29, I'm sorry. Okay, I inversed the 6, so I was looking at upside down. Giving you a visual of how I'm recording. Upside down. And I mean, like, the guy is still young, and he still has a chance to come back to the NHL and everything. But I mean, Smith-Pelly, cool story. I mean, wishing him the best of luck. And also, like, we all remembered his exit interview where he was bawling his eyes out, knowing that he got traded.
That was heartbreaking. That was so sad.
I absolutely hate seeing players, being emotional after they get traded for, or let go from a team that they love. But the big story, and this is where Sebastian is going to come in. Rem Pitlick from the Minnesota Wild having actually a pretty decent season, as a matter of fact.
It's an interesting season.
Yeah, it was really interesting. So how about you put us up to speed as to who he is?
So Rem Pitlick is now immediately tied for third in goal scoring with the Montreal Canadiens, which is very depressing. He's tied with Drouin on 6 goals, behind Nick Suzuki and Josh Anderson, who both have 7. However, there's a big asterisk that's next to his 6 goals, and it's not empty netters. It's the fact that he scored 6 goals on 13 shots. He's shooting at like 48%. So again, it screams unsustainable. He is a solid fourth liner. So don't think because he's on pace for 45 points that he's going to be that kind of player, because he's not. But he's solid, and it's a really nice storyline because the Montreal Canadiens now have 2 brothers in the organization at the same time for the first time since the Kostitsins, which is amazing. And so Rem Pitlick's brother, Rhett Pitlick, was a Montreal Canadiens draft pick in 2019, a 5th rounder who was only playing the USHL up until this season. This season, he went off to college, and he has put up 7 assists, no goals, but 7 assists in 15 games. And he is one of the absolute favorites of friend of the podcast, Will Scout, who we had on a couple months ago. Yep. He was his example as one of the players that he would absolutely go to bat for. He just loves his playing style of high octane, just fun and chaos, despite being smaller. And Rem Pitlick has some similarities. He's not as fast, but other aspects of his game are a bit more refined. Again, he drives offense and defense at an NHL average rate. He's a solid fourth line guy. You can't say too much about it, but
both the wing and center at the same time.
And he can play center, which is a very big thing. And it's kind of just Montreal lost Adam Brooks to waivers after they picked him up on waivers earlier this season. This is kind of just a similar thing of a relatively young player who has had some very good production in very small minutes, and who's probably going to be a fourth line center. It's a very similar storyline, but hopefully Ducharme is going to give him more opportunities than he gave Adam Brooks, and he probably will because the Montreal's lineup is decimated, unlike it was earlier this season. So solid pickup. I saw him on waivers yesterday, and it was that would be a fun storyline if Montreal picked him up, and they did. So I'm happy to see it. Yeah, it's good.
They did, and also it's being reported more and more that a lot of teams were actually willing to put a claim on it, but then Montreal.
Oh, for sure. Did, so. I mean, a 24-year-old centerman who's put up 11 points in 20 games, he's getting picked off of waivers.
He's got an amazing rap sheet as well, and when he was playing in both the University of Minnesota and in the USHL as well. So,
exactly. So the teammates love him. He's a solid fourth line guy.
Zero risk on that front. Josh,
he can easily be flipped for a draft pick at the deadline too. So I like it.
Scenario. Josh, this is actually something that kind of just happened earlier while we were at the corner of an eye watching Boston decimate the Canadiens. I mean, it's still 3-0 in the second period for crying out loud. Jake Allen got injured, and they brought in Samuel Montembeault, who let it go within 6 seconds, courtesy of Christian Dvorak, our best friend. What's the Oh man, I know. You're getting depressed just thinking about it. I get you, buddy. But I mean, what's the goalie situation looking like? I mean, at this point, why are we hanging on to Montembeault so hard? And also, if this is a big if, okay, let's assume Carey Price is not going to stick around. Let's assume Jake Allen is not going to stick around as well. I mean, is Caden Primo actually ready for prime time from what we've seen in the last, his last couple of appearances, or under Price and Allen, we're just totally screwed? Because I'm sorry, but Michael McNiven is not going to cut it for me.
I think that's why we've been hanging on to Montembeault so much, is that we don't want to throw Primo right up into there so quickly, because I don't think he's ready yet. He might be next year for a backup role, but I think that would have to be a heavy, like Carey Price type workload where he comes in and helps out every few games. But he's not there yet, and I've stated in a public forum elsewhere that I don't know if Carey Price is going to come back this season. It seems like every day that goes by, it seems less and less likely that we're even going to see him at all this season.
Yeah.
And I think it feels to me a lot like that year, 2014-15, where he played like 10 games and then got hurt and then just kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see Montreal trying to do something next year, like a Price Primo pairing, trying to give Price a heavier workload and trying to bring Primo up steadily. But outside of that, I think Jake Allen's going to get moved at the deadline, possibly. And then it's just going to be, if they don't think Primo's, they're going to have to bring in some one-year goalie contract, and we all know how great those turned out with me and Montembeault and Keith Kincaid, and all those just never work out. So,
or year 2 of Antti Niemi. What's our I mean, the thing with the goalie situation though is that we quickly dismiss them, and but I mean, is it again an issue of goalie development or player development for that matter, or are we just missing the boat on talent directly? Because obviously, I think you guys know where I'm going with this. Zach Fucale in Washington has just been lights out. I mean, Sebastian, like, is it? Like, did we just miss the boat on Fucale, or we're not developing properly? I mean, what's the story, Wishbone?
I mean, I would argue that Montreal maybe not dropped the ball, but maybe it's more to blame around the Charlie Lindgren situation rather than the Zach Fucale one. So, like, Fucale was a player that put up amazing numbers in the queue on a team with Drouin and Nathan McKinnon. And his numbers in the Habs organization just were never great. They probably should have still given him a shot, but they didn't, and they lost him, and no NHL team picked him up for like 4 years. So it's not really, I wouldn't say that the onus is completely on the Habs for Fucale, because no NHL team gave him a shot for 4 years, right? It's not just Montreal that gave him up. Whereas with Charlie Lindgren, that's a player that always performed pretty well when he had time with the Habs, and they let him go, which I thought was okay. But now he's excelling in St. Louis, and I think he currently has a like 1.22 goals against average to like 6 games. It's ridiculous. Yeah. So again, so just
he's looking like rookie Jim Carrey all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's nuts. Anyways, but goalies are weird, right? Like, you always have some goalies. Like look at Bobrovsky this season. Why is he good now? Why is he good now? I don't know. Goalies are weird. I don't get it.
He got his badge back. It's that simple. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Hey guys, at the same time, now let's just end this little segment with come on, it's the hot topic, of course. I mean, we're still searching for our general manager. I know we left last episode mentioning that Patrick Waugh got an interview, much to the dismay of many. and much to the excitement of others. Renaud Lavoie, who's always very reliable. Excuse me. No disrespect intended. Has mentioned that we're down to 3 candidates. I mean, I don't know if it's true or not. I mean, I still, we don't know exactly what the process is. We don't know who's being interviewed. We don't know what's going on. But, I mean, the names that are starting to come out are getting thinner. Like, the list is getting smaller and smaller. I still think Mathieu Darche is going to be the next general manager. That was my pick since the beginning, just because of the experience he has with Tampa Bay, and also because, I mean, he fits perfectly in that mold that Jeff Gordon is looking for, being like, you're going to be the relay, you're going to be our yes man, you're going to be the face of the media and everything, and I'm pretty much going to be doing the bulk of the job, which I don't think are roles that guys like Roberto Luongo or Daniel Brière or even Patrick Roy is willing to take. Predictions, hot takes. Who's the next general manager? I say Mathieu Darche.
Okay, for the fun of it, I'll go with Luongo. I think that would be so entertaining. He's such a character, right?
I love him.
He's so entertaining. Plus, he might really want to jump ship from Florida after experiencing what he experienced last night in the press box.
Maybe. What the hell, man?
Kodak Black. That was. I have not seen many crazier things happen in hockey than that. That was nuts. Oh,
I'm sorry, but
not the right word, but yeah, it was crazy.
Pretty sure Josh has some better moves than Kodak Black, for that matter, right?
Yeah, but Luongo will be fun, and who knows? He might actually want to come here. It's more just like I know that like he's really entrenched in Florida with his entire family. He's still taking the interviews, so who knows? I think Dash is probably the most likely, but
you never know, because we said the same thing about Marc Bergevin back in the days. He was totally entrenched in Chicago. He's not going anywhere, and his family is there, and the next thing you know, he becomes to Montreal. Josh, your take. Who's the next Habs general manager? And if you say Régent Hull, I'm firing you on the spot.
Patrick Roy would be the most entertaining, I think, of them. I could see him like climbing across the press boxes to try and fight the opponent's GM, like he did with was it Anaheim? Was pushing down the glass to go fight. Yeah, he'd be the most entertaining.
It would be a soap opera just to see like him fighting for more control with Gorton wanting to still have a role in the team. Oh my god.
I also just got distracted because Boston just scored a shorthand goal.
Yeah. But yeah. I will note Montreal, they finally tuned into something on the power play. They have Cole Caulfield and Mike Hoffman on the same units. They have actually 2 one-timer threats on one unit, and that makes me happy. Oh, also, do you want more good news about that shorthanded goal?
No.
It was scored as a hat-trick goal by Brad Marchand.
Come on, man. Get out of here.
This is pain. This is pain.
Yeah,
but at least
what's pain is that I'm still seeing Ben Sherrod on the power play. But anyway, okay. So Josh, your pick is Patrick is what for real?
It would be fun, but Darche is obviously the most likely. I don't know how much control he had over there with Julien Brisebois and the Lightning, but what the Lightning have been able to do is just very impressive. So it's hard to not pick him.
I had a family member who told me one of the most entertaining things would be to see Roy as general manager and Bob Hartley as coach. The ratings would be sky high just for that show.
Wow.
I despise Bob Hartley as a coach, but I mean, come on.
That would be fun. Yeah.
That would rival any TV show.
Oh my God. And I am also rooting a little bit for Marc Denis. If he gets the job, I'm going to be really happy. Like I like him a lot.
That'd be pretty cool, but it would also be interesting that we're pickpocketing RDS with 2 people. So
yeah. Well, it'd be a trend. Look, I would pay to have Pierre Houd as like just a regular, just like talk to the media instead of the coach or GM guy. Like, yes, all day, every day, please give that to me.
When Michel Lacroix finally retires, he should be the home ice announcer.
Oh yeah, he should. He would be amazing at. Amazing voice.
That'd be pretty amazing. All right. I mean, I guess we'll see. I mean, there's still a lot of hockey to be played, a lot of time. But I mean, like obviously now we're in mid-January. It's minus 30 over here in Montreal, and but I mean, everything is heating up. I mean, we need a general manager ASAP because we need to start selling those assets because I mean, we got some interesting prospects that are available to us, and that's what we're going to be talking about next.
The prospect heroes Scott and Sebastian on Puck and Roll.
Prospect heroes. Okay, seriously, I'm never gonna sing again. I'm sorry, guys. Sebastian, hi. How's it going?
It's going pretty well. Apart from the 4-0 Boston game.
Leave the game alone. Okay, you know what? No more NHL talk. We're gonna talk. let's talk about prospects. We're getting into that exciting time of the year where everyone is starting to release their winter lists. We are getting closer and closer to the midpoint of the season, even though there's certain leagues that don't even have a season going on right now. We're just talking about the Q as a prime example. You, though, have been compiling a list since the beginning of the season as to who your top prospects are. And very interestingly enough, I'm going to read out your top 5 and your 1 to 5. And I would like to know as your logic behind this ranking, because it's a little bit different from what the so-called experts are talking about. So number 1, it's the general consensus. You got Shane Wright at number 1. I definitely agree with that. You have Brad Lambert at number 2. Number 3, Matthew Savoie. Simon Nemec at number 4. Logan Cooley, number 5. Joaquin, I'm sorry about that. Joaquin Kemel. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I got distracted. I'll be honest with you. Is at number 6, just to mention who's right under that. But Wright, Lambert, Savoie, Nemec, and Cooley as your top 5. Curious to know why.
Yeah, well, so Shane Wright is an interesting one because a lot of people have been I guess disappointed with his play because he hasn't been as electrifying offensively as he was 2 seasons ago. And unlike Michael Pezzetta, who just scored a beautiful turnaround, like spinorama goal to make it 4-1 in this game. But unlike Pezzetta, Shane Wright does have first line upside. And I like him a lot because he is a very... Okay. Do you guys remember what happened after the Pacioretty trade and what Montreal told Nick Suzuki to do in his final junior season? What the Habs said was go back to junior. Instead of playing how you're playing right now, play a pro-ready game. Right. Always play defensively. Don't cut the corners that you can cut in junior because you won't be able to get away with that in the pros. And it's going to make your transition a lot faster.
Play like a pro, basically.
Play like a pro.
Yeah.
Fast forward a year, Nick Suzuki is Montreal's first-line centerman. Shane Wright is doing that on his own this season. He might have advisors telling him to do this, but he's doing that on his own. He is not cutting any corners. He is playing a solid defensive game. He is active in transition, mainly as a guy who he springs transition. He's not like the puck carrier, because he's not the fastest person. He's not super quick like other people in this list. But he springs transition and he arrives in the offensive zone as the third forward in, and he's there as a shooting threat. So he drifts down into the slot and he's there as a shooting threat, and he can shoot the puck. He has a tremendous release. He has the best shot in this entire draft class. And again, first line upside, first power play upside. I'm a fan of him because he does everything well. Is he the player that people were maybe hoping for after his ridiculous draft -2 season? Maybe not. like after that season, people were thinking, oh, the next Austin Matthews, or all these like unjust comparisons that no one could ever really live up to. But Shane Wright, he like the comparisons that he's getting by people like prominent like public scouts are like a Jonathan Toews type of game, an Andrei Kopitar type of game, and that's what I see more as well. Of you, he's maybe not the person that like excels on his own on a line. But the thing is, in Montreal, he wouldn't have to. He would have a Cole Caulfield literally just like attached to his hip because those two would work tremendously together. Caulfield brings that pace that he would need. They are both they both have great shots, but both have underrated playmaking as well. So Shane Wright is for me still the de facto number one. I don't think I'm going to take him away from that spot. But again, the difference is not as I expected it to be coming into the season. Then my number two is an interesting one. It's Brad Lambert, who a lot of people have at like 10 or 15 because he has 6 points in 25 or 26 games in the league.
24 games, 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points. And
exactly.
Whopping 31 penalty minutes as well.
Ooh, I don't know where that came from. It may have been a couple majors, like of one game with like 12 penalty minutes, but Brad Lambert is tailor-made for modern hockey. Yeah. He just is. He has tremendous skill. He is probably one of the fastest players in this entire draft class, and he can do things at that speed. Some players have the speed and don't really know how to use it to their best effects, right? Like McDavid is the prime example of how you use speed effectively in the NHL.
Yeah.
Lambert, obviously not making any McDavid comparisons here because that would not be fair at all. No. But Brad Lambert can execute high-level moves at high speeds. He uses his speed intelligently to open space for teammates. He is probably the best player in this entire draft class in transition of getting zone entries. Like he does it so easily against pros. Again, this is in Europe with bigger ice surfaces and stuff, and like it's easier just to get zone entries for that reason. But it looks so translatable to me, and I think that because of his poor point production against the pros, especially compared to his teammate Joakim Kamel, he's going to slip in the draft compared to where I think he deserves to go and should go.
He might slip definitely, but the thing is with a guy like Lambert is that he plays in a league where the talent is a little bit above him.
For sure,
right? He's a boy amongst men, and
for sure, he's still playing like second line minutes.
Exactly,
he's still playing it.
Exactly.
He's playing big minutes. He is playing well. I've been impressed with every viewing I've had of him, and again, he's look. European players always fall in the draft.
They
always do.
Those exact words.
They always
fall because take into consideration, Sebastian, is that if you're going on elite prospects or hockey DB or whatever, you're going to be like, wow, he's got six goals, 6 points in 24 games. He's got 15 points in 46 games last year. Like, what's so big about him and everything? Is that it's one of those situations where if you don't watch the games, you won't know.
Hugely.
You won't know because it just goes beyond statistics, and that's why you have a guy like Bob McKenzie, who ranks him at number 3, but Craig Button is ranking him at 17. Dauber Prospects is actually his 13, but you got, like Puck Authority is going at 6, and I think Will Scouch actually had him pretty high on his list.
Will Scouch has him at 2 as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly. So,
so I'm just as high as Scouch is on him.
So the same thing could be said even like for Sweden. Look at Norlinder, for example. Norlinder dropped quite a bit, and
he went undrafted in his first year.
He went undrafted in his first year, and I'm sorry, man, but I'm looking. I watched the games with Norlinder, and he didn't look out of place at all. This is a future NHL, my goodness, an NHL boys and girls.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm a big fan of drafting for European players, and you see some teams that do it tremendously well. Like the Detroit Red Wings have one of the best scouts in the league, and it's their Swedish scout, and they just listen to him for 2 picks every single draft. They're just like, okay,
pick your guy. Right? And that's why the Red Wings have picked so many Swedes over the past couple seasons. So if you go back to 2019, you see names like Albert Johansson, Albin Greva, that Elmer Soderblom, Gustav Berglund, right? All these are Swedish players that they got from their one scout. Then in 2020, you have William Wallinder, Theodor Niederbach, and of course, fourth overall, Lucas Raymond, who's broken out this season. So the top 3 picks in that draft were all from their Swedish scout. And then this season, their top pick again, Simon Edvinsson, their Swedish scout. And then later in the draft, you have a name like Liam Dower Nielsen, who is a very interesting prospect. So
yeah, so going European, I think, is always a smart decision because the bang for your buck for the draft pick is always a bit better than if you go North American. Because also, look, teams are based here in North America, and all the players are basically playing junior, so higher point productions looks good. It's easier to get to, which is better. But yeah, European is always a pretty good bet for me.
All right, let's do some rapid fires real quick for the last 3 guys. Sebastian, Matthew Savoie out of Winnipeg, Simon Nemec out of HK Nitra in Slovakia, Logan Cooley in the USHL program, who I'm actually pretty high on. So your thoughts on those 3 really quick.
Okay, Savoie is undersized, quick, gritty, plays a more physical game than his 6'3" teammate, Connor Geeky. He has some issues of only producing on the power play. Basically, like he's first in the WHL in points, but he's far from first in even strength points. That's an issue. There are just some if he has time and space, he is one of the most dangerous players in the entire draft class. His issue is creating things when he doesn't have that time and space that he won't have at the NHL level. So that's the concern, which is why I dropped him down to 3 from where he previously was at 2 on my list. But high ceiling, but again, just some concerns. Simon Nemec is my favorite defenseman in this entire draft class. He's putting up a lot of points against pro competition in Slovakia. He is actually outpacing Brant Clark for points in the Slovakian Pro League. Which Brand Clark set the record for under 20 defensemen last season. Nemec is currently on pace for breaking that record. Barely, but still. And he is very good defensively. He's a very solid player all around. Probably after Wright has the highest floor in the entire draft class in terms of just, he's going to be a top 4 defenseman, no question. The question is, can he be a top 2 or even first defenseman? That I don't know yet. But I've liked him a lot with every viewing. He plays good offensively, solid defensively, good in transition. I like him a lot. Logan Cooley. I talked a bit about him last episode. He is a playmaker, and he is very creative with the puck. He reminds me a lot of Nick Suzuki, but is more refined in certain areas. And yeah, again, I love Nick Suzuki, and Cooley reminds me of him quite a bit, which is why I have him there. And I'm going to be honest, the next 3 players on my list are all pretty close behind those, with Joakim Kamel scoring lots of goals in Finland, David Jiricek, highest ceiling of all the defenders in the draft class, very creative offensively, and Frank Nazar, who is this undersized but super fast and bulldog of a player that I just love watching in the US NTDP.
There's a couple of guys. I'm a little biased, just real quick. Because I've seen them live and everything. Anthony Vero is one of them. I'm a pretty big fan of him. But I mean, I know a lot of people. Looking like a team like Gatineau, for example, there's a lot of really good prospects. Everyone seems pretty high on Tristan Luneau. I'm not one of those guys, to be
me neither.
Honest with you.
He's been solid.
He's been solid, but I don't know. There's always
nothing stands out for me personally. I watch him and it's you're doing well.
I don't see.
Why would I draft him in the top 2 rounds? I don't know.
Exactly. My guy, and this I know he's most likely going to drop in the 2nd round unless it's a surprise, and I really hope to have picking him. That's Noah Warren. I think he's a solid defender. He's a giant man. And who did that despite his size, he's very quick on his skates. He's got amazing vision, and this could be one of your classic shutdown defensemen. Especially on the right side, and pairing him with a guy like Romanov. Wow, that would be amazing.
I'm honestly really surprised that he's not higher on a lot of these more traditional NHL lists, because he fits that traditional archetype that NHL at the older generation of NHL scouts and GMs just love, right? Of big, physical, skates well.
Yeah, but
right?
I think we're slowly moving on from that. So it might be the new generation.
Slowly, but still, like with NHL Central Scouting and Bob McKenzie's lists, this more traditional mindset, it always shines through in those, always. And the fact that Warren isn't there is intriguing to me because, again, I see myself as a very like I have a very modern outlook on the game, and Warren has like the more traditional like archetype of the player, but I love him because he's just very effective in what he does. And I don't care what your build is or how you play. If you're producing well, if you have a good impact on the game, that's great. And it's why I have Warren above Luneau, and why I was very confused why Tristan Luneau was number 10 on NHL Central Scouting's North American skaters list, because what? Like, he was ahead of Frank Nazar, and they had Seamus Casey at 32, which is like the equivalent of like end of second round player, which is absurd. But yeah, anyways, it's a weird list. It's a very, very strange list. I don't get it, but hey, it is what it is.
To be continued. Professor Rosa, are you ready to step into your historical chair and amuse us with some fun facts from the past?
Well, buckle up, boys and girls. This is going to be a big one.
Take it away, good sir.
On this day in Habs history.
On this day, January 12th, the year of our Lord, 1918, Joe Malone scored 5 goals in a 9-4 win against the original Ottawa Senators to become the first 20-goal scorer in NHL history. He would score at least 1 goal in the Montreal Canadiens' first 7 NHL games to reach the feat. On January 12th, 1981, Richard Savini recorded a shutout win, and with Montreal goalies Michael Larocque, Denis Herron, and Rick Walmsley already recording shutouts, it marked the first time one team had 4 goaltenders record shutouts in a single season. Born on January 12th, 1891, David Bergy would go on to play for the Habs, but scored the first ever NHL goal on December 19th, 1917, a member of the Montreal Wanderers against the Toronto Arenas. In 2001, J.J. Daigneault played his last NHL game and only game as a member of the Minnesota Wild. It was significant because since debuting in 1984, he was the second player to play for 10 different NHL teams, one of which being the Canadiens. The first player to accomplish this was Michael Petit. Both were drafted Vancouver, 11th overall in 1982 and 10th overall in 1984. They don't hold the record, however. That belongs to Mike Sillinger, who was traded 9 times and played for 12 different teams. And a happy birthday to everyone's favorite Hall of Fame defenseman turned Canada breakfast tycoon, Tim Horton, born January 12, 1930. January 13th is the anniversary of the trade that brought Frank Mahovlich to Montreal for Guy Charon, Bill Collins, and Mickey Redmond in 1971. The trade brought brothers Frank and Peter together and brought the Canadiens a Stanley Cup. And finally, January 13th, 1886, Art Ross was born. While technically only playing 3 NHL games for everyone's favorite defunct NHL team, the Montreal Wanderers, whose arena burned down and they promptly fell apart, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame as a player. It's the 3rd lowest games played of any player inducted into the Hall of Fame, behind Barney Stanley and Lester Patrick, who both only played 1 game. Ross was known as one of the offensive defenseman pioneers, being one of the first defenders to bring the puck up on his own stick instead of passing to the forwards. He led the first player strike for more pay, developed the modern hockey puck, and changed the hockey net for the better. He spent time as a referee, coach, and general manager, and of course donated the Art Ross trophy that goes to the player with the most points in a season. Montreal's Elmer Lack officially won the first Art Ross trophy, but if the trophy existed at the start of the NHL, the first winner would have been Joe Malone.
Kind of ironic that a defenseman gets the honors of being named for the trophy with the player with the most points. You know, that's some Bobby Orr stuff
offensive
right
defenseman
there.
at least.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's like, hey, you guys remember? There's I had a little flashback. I mean, first of all, Josh, this is probably my favorite segment of the show. I mean, I always love these historical facts, but I do miss the first, 6 or 7 episodes where there was always a mention of either Guy Lafleur or Maurice Richard. I mean, you need to bring this like back in any shape or form. Like in, I don't know, like January 12th, 1989, Guy Lafleur went out and had 2 hot dogs and a poutine at the Belle Province or something. Like, I don't know.
I'll try not to disappoint you next time.
All right, man. All right, on that note, let's have a little fun here. We always like to end the show with a little bit of humor and a little bit of craziness and zaniness and everything. So we are going to continue one of those off-air conversations that we had, and we are going to talk about the top hockey names of all time. And this could, it could be crazy, it could be zany, it could be interesting, modern, old, whatever. And I'm gonna make Mr. Joshua Rosa start this little segment. So fire away, man. Give me one of those amazing hockey names. And here's an example. I mean, like in baseball, for example, there would be Josh Outman, who was a pitcher, by the way. That is just outstanding. But in the hockey realm, give us something good, man.
I was always kind of partial to Martin Firk, who had a last name with no vowels in it. RK was his own.
Who knows?
Another one I like was just Ron Tugnut. That's a good name. I love Tugnut.
That was a classic.
And
yes.
then there's the classic Bookaboom. Jeff
Bookaboom.
Bookaboom.
Yeah. We were mentioning Miroslav Shatan or Satan earlier as well. That was a pretty cool one. Sebastian.
Well, considering I'm always thinking of prospects, I'm gonna look at like more of like a modern example of names. This is again like my actual selection is Jagger Firkus, who's a draft eligible player this year, and I think it's a tremendous name, Jagger Firkus. Like it's absurd. But just he's also from the WHL. The WHL always has these like classic hockey names recently. Like every time, if you want a good time, look at just like the WHL entry draft and look at the names that are selected. Like every single time, like, okay, I have a list here of the 2020 WHL Bantam draft. And the names that came up include 2 different variations of Aiden. Cosmo, Coster, Dax, Damien, Deegan, Hoyt, Grayson, Graydon, Grayson with a C, Fox with 2 X's, Easton, Jaden, Jackson, Jaden, Jason, Job. There's a job. Caden, Kalan, Carson, Keelan, Cooper with a K, Maddox with a UX at the end, Oakley, Omen, like a good omen, but that's just the guy's first name. Rowan, Riker, 4 different Rylands, a Sage, Sawyer, Tate, but spelled Tait, Talon, Taden, Trey, Truman, Tyson, Van, Walker, Z-Ev, Z-E apostrophe E-V. I don't know what that is, but like, and lastly, Zephyr. WHL
Zephyr.
is tremendous.
We're definitely swaying away from the traditional biblical names.
Oh yeah.
I totally forgot about this, and then I just had a huge flash because I was always a big fan of Jonathan Chichu, especially as a kid, like the Chichu train. But then I remembered in the early '90s, he played for, I believe it was the Red Wings, and maybe even the Rangers at the end of his career. He didn't play very long, just a couple of seasons and whatnot. He was Swedish, a Swedish defenseman. Now, his first name is spelled P-E-R, and his last name is spelled D-J-O-O-S. So he would like
Per juice.
But it was actually pronounced
Pear juice.
Pear juice.
That one's great.
Absolutely fantastic. And then, of course, you go the more modern ones like, Jonathan Quick is a pretty badass name for a goalie.
That's a good name.
Double Z, Zarly Zalapsky. He had the amazing nickname of being ZZ Top on top of that. You guys remember Garth Butcher from the 80s and 90s as well. Tony Twist. Nat Dominichelli is another good one. And of course,
Carey Price is a good name. Price is the last name. Good last name.
Is just amazing. And of course, you got classic ones like Clayton Stoner. I don't know if you guys remember Clayton Stoner. So from the Minnesota Wilds back in the day.
Got Tutu in there too.
Jordan Tutu was.
Jordan Tutu. Hockey names are great.
I've got a good one from the 50s. Well, he played in the 70s, born in the 50s. Lawrence J. Goodenough.
Oh, wow.
His last name is Goodenough.
That's right up there with Bruce Shoebottom. and Yanni Niinima.
Yanni Niinima is a great one.
Although,
also, there's a Colton Yellowhorn.
Oh, that's amazing. I guess remember Radek Bunk? Every time
Yes, of course.
Of course, because every time he do a body check, you hear bonk, bonk. But
for my
no, go ahead, man.
if I was gonna pick one for this year, draft eligible names, I might go with Vinzenz Rohrer.
Yes,
it's spelled with two
it's a German.
Z's.
It's a German name. I can do this.
It's great.
I
can actually pronounce this, unlike others. Vinzenz Rohrer is the pronunciation in German, but honestly, Vinzenz is easy for me. Rohrer is really tough to pronounce, especially in English. It's like Rohrer. So at Ottawa 67's games, the pronunciation of his name is always so funny because everyone's just like Vinny Roar. It's like his name is basically just like Vinny Roar now. So cool.
You want to be cocky about this, and I dare Joshua to freaking pronounce this because we have in Quebec this wonderful long-lasting tradition of having double last names, and sometimes even double first names. But then this gentleman had the distinguished honor of having a hyphenated first and last name. I give you Pierre-Luc Le Tourneau Leblanc.
That is a tremendous name.
It's like 6
That
miles
is about
long.
as Quebec as it gets.
Wait, Pierre-Luc Le Tourneau Leblanc?
Le Tourneau Leblanc. So imagine an American announcer trying to announce a goal by him, as being like, that guy.
Honestly, the Swedes always have some good ones in there too. They're but the Russian names are always the ones that get absolutely butchered by everyone. Even this year's draft class. I've seen Josh struggle through a few of these over the last couple of weeks. Ivan Miroshnichenko. That was one.
Miroshnichenko. Yeah.
Yes.
Josh is just shared it. This outstanding picture of Larry Goodenow.
Oh my god.
It's absolutely spectacular. It's Josh.
That's a beautiful man.
It's a beautiful man. I'm like, please post this on our Twitter ASAP and just
of course,
share this with the world. This beautiful man. Anyways, gentlemen, that's all the time we have for this episode. Thank you so much. On behalf of Sebastian, Joshua Rosa, I'm Patrick Lortie. Giving a nice little shout out to our other mates, Scott Cowan, Sam Mendelson, and Anthony DeMarco over chilling at home watching. Yeah, right. They're not watching the game. Are you kidding me? Nobody watches the game anymore. They're playing Scrabble or something like that. So on that note, it was a great pleasure to be here. Join us next time for another episode of Puck and Roll. Peace.